What TV show trope needs to retire? Old Forest Walker said, when someone in a horror movie picks up a weapon, uses it on whatever's chasing them and then fricking drops it. Like, you can still use that weapon. X-Men. Nikanuser NW said, same with Shark Tank. Sorry, whimper, it's just, the financial crisis hit us so hard in 2008, sobbing, and we sunk everything we had into this solar-powered flashlight. Someone will usually make an offer, while Kevin says it's a shit idea. Derek Ream said, Dragon's Den Canada, which was basically a precursor to Shark Tank, was awesome because they had no rules preventing people from being in it. Shark Tank requires you actually have a company. Dragon's Den had total whack jobs showing up with bizarre ideas. One guy had a metal bowl that he used to make music and wanted money to go around spreading good vibes. One lady had a bunch of paintings of mermaids and wanted to use them to make a movie but didn't actually have a story to connect them. Points out your grammar said, writing in a relationship crisis for the main couple just to keep things interesting. Or keeping apart two people who would have fucked 6 seasons ago if it were real life, because the writers are milking the romantic tension to death. Woozapooza said, a similar trope, or maybe a subcategory of the trope, is when character A has something very important to say, but character B keeps interrupting them and talking over them, and character A doesn't get to say what they needed to say, which leads to disastrous consequences. In real life, if someone won't let you talk, but what you have to say is extremely important, you don't just give up, you yell. I am very shy and introverted and I hate interrupting people, but even I would just yell in that scenario. Lady Shazella said, entire storylines built off misunderstandings or miscommunications are just boring and frustrating. Edit. Okay, I will agree, there are exceptions to this. For comedy it can work well if done properly, like when Holly meets Kevin in the office and thinks he has special needs. Hilarious. Teriki said, push in on that puddle of water, there's a reflection. Can you clean up the image? Hacker guy clickety clacks, the image is now in 4K. Run that image through every facial recognition database known to man, even Interpol. Hacker guy clickety clacks some more, wanted poster appears on screen. We got him, I want a surveillance detail on this guy 24/7, if he so much as scratches his ass, I want to know about it. Polyhymnia said, casting glamorous-looking 25-year-olds as 15-year-olds. Not only does it take me out of the setting, but it affects teen self-image and probably also affects how adults see kids. I understand that when portraying certain subject matter, there are a lot less hoops to jump through if you don't cast a minor. But at least cast a babyface 21-year-old and don't dress them like they just got off a shoot for Vogue. Trouda Lacream said, the designated smart character, except the writers don't know how to write smart people, so they just make every other character, even ones who've been previously established as quite intelligent, become really stupid whenever they're around. Alternatively, the smart person is smart because they use unnecessarily complicated language and scientific terms for everyday things. I recommend agitating the compound in a homogeneous solution of dihydrogen monoxide and sodium chloride. Yeah. What's he saying? He says stir it in salt water. Cue laugh track. A character stepping into the room just in time to finish another person's sentence or otherwise deliver a dramatic line. It's such a TV staple that we've all come to accept it, but when you think about it it's really unnatural, like they've been standing outside the door for the last 10 minutes, waiting for their cue. The big tough guy whose sole purpose is to get thrown around like a rag doll by the latest villain, to show how dangerous they are. Reverend Hobo said, the most egregious I ever saw was, I think, Late Run CSI. A teenager charges into the station with a gun and shoots a cop and takes a main character hostage in an interrogation room. The Mick is talking to the kid and offers him a bottled water. The kid drinks it and gives it back and Mick puts the bottle on the table and turns it a bit and looks at the security camera. They realize he wants them to use the shitty little camera in the interrogation room to zoom in enhance enough to see the kid's fingerprints on the bottle and identify him. And then they do that. Spiffy 123 said, someone overhearing a conversation through a door, but only hearing half the conversation and thinking the person was insulting them. The insulted person then gets angry but never says why, only saying something stupid like you know what you said. It's so contrived. If characters just use their freaking words instead of going I'm angry, 1. This conflict would never happen. Hung Hecht said, I really hate when the child is way more emotionally intelligent than they ought to be. Gandhi-type wisdom coming from a 6-year-old. I think movies are worse about this than TV, but it still happens. Billy example I can think of right now is the movie The Ultimate Gift. Good movie, but it's definitely guilty of this trope, which in my opinion takes away, not adds. Edit. 8 hours later and nobody pointed out that I said Billy example. I don't know how that happened and I don't remember what I was trying to say. But the only? Must be Billy. Bon Zombie Kitty said. If it was my 5-year-old. Daddy. I need to tell you something. It's that, the thing I need to tell you is, when I was at school, and we were playing with. You remember the time at school when, schoolmate, took my crayons? No. Well, that happened. Look at the moon. Why does it look like that? Anyways. I need to tell you something. I was, at shul. Did you know there are dead people in the cemetery? They are under the ground. So I was at school and insert another 10 minutes of rambling. And I got a sticker. Lurk post said. The horror movie victim who flees upstairs. The horror movie victims who do not arm themselves. The drama plot that could be solved by 2 minutes of dialogue. The high-end ex-military henchman who only has a pistol and doesn't check his area properly. The high-end diversity henchman from an exotic land with an exotic melee weapon in a movie full of guns. The series plot that builds expertly toward a perceived end and then subverts expectations with some half-assed shit out of nowhere. The series plot that progresses and regresses ad infinitum for stupid reasons to preserve romantic tension. The character that fucks up the plot after literally everyone warned them about exactly that. Assholes that learn to be better people and then immediately die. Mentors who pass on knowledge or items and immediately die. Cute or innocent characters without depth who exist only to die by the villain's hand. I need to stop. Ephraim said. I was in a pretty unhappy relationship for 6 years, 6 months out from the wedding, invitations had just arrived to be mailed out, and I ended it. There was definitely a part of me that kept thinking, well, based on TV and stand-up comedians, I'm not supposed to be happy in a relationship. This is normal, it was the we can just get divorced in a couple years, thoughts that finally kicked me into ending it before reaching that point. Now in a very happy marriage, and realize just how damaging the trope can be. Yes, relationships take work, but there should be an underlying level of happiness and love that makes working through the hard parts worthwhile. It can't all be hard parts. Coconut Bird said. I hate the trope of the idiot bumbling husband married to the woman who is obviously much more intelligent than him. Yet the idiot husband obviously isn't an idiot outside of the house. He holds down a high-powered job and manages to afford a great house. Home Improvement, Everyone Loves Raymond and Modern Family are the ones that come to mind. And why does the super smart wife never have a job? Nothing against stay-at-home moms, but that doesn't match the reality for most people I know. It's one of the reasons I love The Middle. The couple in that show were equals. Narospity said. America's Got Talent. Every single winner is a singer. Singing takes the least amount of relative effort to become talented. In the show Mr. Iglesias, one of the characters wants to perform stand-up comedy for the talent show. His first pitch is to do a bit by Chris Rock. He gets told no and asks, if singers can sing other people's songs, why can't I perform other people's comedy? The only answer he gets is, it's just different. If the singers were required to come up with original songs, they would be far better shows. Player 276 said. I think the bigger appeal of zombies is the world they live in, not the actual zombies themselves. With the whole world went to hell and all your responsibilities and problems went away. You are one of the few survivors in a world that is generally pretty easy to survive in. Just get your crew and some guns and you're good. There is no mental drain on you either. You know exactly who your enemy is and what they can do. With shit like demons, time travelers, or anything with a conscience, survival is difficult. There is also no logical explanation for a global collapse of the world because of demons. With zombies it's easy, some virus that spreads caused it. People have experience and understanding of viruses, People don't understand demonology or time travel. Whizbang35 said, "My mother was a nurse when Grey's Anatomy came out. She always complained about the lack of shit, vomit and blood in it. On top of that, she and her fellow nurses were exhausted at the end of their shifts. She worked in a cardiovascular ward with plenty of patients who were nowhere near any definition of the word fitness. The last thing their worn-out asses would want to do at their end of shift would be to grab some nookie with the doctor in their foreign bodily fluid-stained smocks." Cold Lightning 9 said, "As someone working in the IT industry, this is too true. Sec Plus with a few years of experience is literally a key into an endless industry, and you really don't need a degree, though it of course helps if you want to move up into the more program managerial side of things. Cybersec tends to require more experience from what I've seen, but it's totally worth it if you put in the time. Getting more certs and work experience just opens up more opportunities to be more flexible down the road as well. I wish more people are aware of this, because the demand is astronomical and pays extremely well if you qualify for it." Adsented Doorknob said, "Characters answering every question with an eloquently orated monologue anecdote that happens to supply a perfect solution to the problem at hand. I'm looking at you, Black Sails. Should we take the north route or the south route? In my younger days, when life was simpler, I had a childhood friend whose father had a terrible case of the gout. It's funny, I can't even remember my friend's name. I spent every day with him for the first 12 years of my life and I can't even remember his damned name. Life is so strange that way, isn't it? Several minutes of monologue, probably looking out a window. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Yes, sir, brilliant, we'll go east." Hugo B. Designer said, "Boy gets girl in the end, or basically two sexually attractive people of opposing genders who spend more than 5 minutes together on screen must end up having a romantic relationship established by the end. God, it's infuriating. Whenever I get too comfortable with the idea that two people are just having a nice, meaningful friendship, boom, awkward romance scene. And I don't mean that just because of heteronormativity, I feel the same way about forced same-sex couples. It's just this idea that people cannot be content with platonic relationships unless they're already in a relationship or aren't each other's preferred gender. And it's so forced in most situations. Good guy and random girl are fighting for their lives in a highly traumatic life and death apocalyptic scenario? Well, nothing a wet kiss can't fix, am I right? Macho man treated the woman like garbage the whole movie? Just throw a hand waved self-sacrifice and all is forgiven. Two characters that are completely unrelated in a story are queer-coded? Boy oh boy, can you be sure the writers will find a contrived setup for them to get together." Some guy in San Jose said, "Saved by the Cavalry. Game of Thrones was the worst offender. With the exception of Hardhome, every battle was completely inconsequential because it was always one side losing until a savior came in, making the first 90% of the battle completely pointless. It's hard to care for Battle of the Bastards when you knew that Jon Snow could have just waited a day for the cavalry to come in. And if you couldn't predict that the battle would be won by Jon Snow by help that miraculously appeared when all was lost, I have no idea what show you were watching beforehand. 'Cause that's all they do." Arhigsk said, "Romances that have little or no bearing on the plot. I don't care if they are compatible, they don't need to end up together. Not every movie needs a fucking romantic B-plot. Cases in point. Every Disney princess. Jordi and Rios in Picard. Pretty much every single sci-fi movie with a romantic B-plot. Rocky and Ginger from Chicken Run. This list is too long. Also, have you noticed that LGB romances have to be justified with lots of backstories or else it gets called forced, but they just have a straight romance pop out of nowhere and nobody complains? Seriously. Korra and Asami had like 4 seasons of build-up. Catra and Adora didn't get together until the very last episode. Garnet had to be justified as a fusion. The only buck to this trend was Seven and Raffi in Picard." Slingisla said, "I think this goes for all female characters. As a woman who is very intentionally child-free, nothing makes me more angry than the child-free woman finally softens her heart and has a baby. Women are not just baby-making machines. They can have story arcs that don't involve motherhood. These tropes reinforce such a nauseating stereotype. Related, all B-pan people wanting to have threesomes multiples. This is another shitty stereotype, and as a B person, so many people asks about threesomes the instant they hear you're B. Mostly dudes and older generations. Me Without Cthulhu said, I'm really sick of the boring storyline that comes along in season 2 or 3 where one of the regular characters goes through some shit and turns to alcohol and becomes a piece of shit to everyone around them. And the inevitable redemption arc. At least make it interesting and let that character just become awful or die or something. It's so lame watching that cringy and predictable story over and over and over. Polyuse 2444 said, the heartless workaholic dad who ignores his family because he's far too busy working on the big presentation for the Johnson account. I swear, most TV writers think that work is an optional thing that people do for fun because they enjoy it. Just once, I'd absolutely love it if, after the dad learns the true meaning of family and triumphantly walks out of the big presentation to go to his son's baseball game, they show the epilogue where the dad is explaining to his loving family that they have to move, they're selling the car, little Celeste can't take violin lessons anymore and mom has to get a job to make ends meet? Lord Kyrielite said, let's see. Good always defeats evil. Divorced couple who have been at bad terms for an eternity but miraculously settle all their differences and get back together in a few days' time. Burned out, middle-aged women who drink too much and blame everybody else for being single. Power of friendship love. Aliens always invading the US. The Mick discovering an unknown talent and excelling at it in a few days' time. The Mick being the chosen one or destined since the dawn of time. You can earn the love of a woman, even if she hates your guts, by doing your best, or even worse, keeping on harassing her until she gives in. It really needs to disappear since it's really dangerous. A horrible villain having a change of heart. Way too overused songs to convey a feeling. For example, Walking on Sunshine to convey happiness. Black people always being into rap music and acting swaggy and ghetto. Bonus points if they also speak in Ebonics. This one may be a stretch, but first times in porn. Puzzlehead Rate 73 said, it's not strictly television but ending revenge plots off with if you kill them, you'll be just like them. It's a stupid false equivalence and it enrages me every time I see it. Yeah. We've slaughtered our way through countless goons who never harmed us personally, but as soon as we kill someone because they wronged us personally, it's revenge, and therefore inherently bad. I especially hate it when the hero who refuses to kill says this to someone without that rule, and somehow anyone willing to resort to lethal measures is invariably portrayed as a sociopath or at least deeply misguided. We don't even hold real-life cops to that standard. And that's because it's a completely unreasonable standard for someone whose job involves engaging deadly combatants. Don't get me started on the would your parents, brother, sister, love interest, other relative or loved one really want this? Because they probably would. I feel like most people would want their killer, or whatever the villain did, repaid in kind. I swear, I'm contemplating having a letter read at my funeral that says if the cause of death was murder, let it be known that the dearly departed does indeed want you to use violence to avenge him. Don't listen to those hippies that say otherwise. Walter Polyglot said, I hate it when people club someone in the head, and it's assumed to be done with such precision that they are knocked out, usually for exactly how long you need them to be, no matter if you're carrying them or shoving them into a trunk. It doesn't matter if the good guys do it to the bad guys, or if someone was just making too much noise and needed to be quickly silenced. Bang them on the head with a wrench or the butt of your revolver and problem solved. Nobody freaks out, everyone gets in line and is like, yeah, he had no choice. Get them in the trunk and we'll deal with them later. They never suffer internal bleeding and just die? Just once, I'd like to see someone come to with severe brain damage and let the heroes live with the fact that they just tatered up someone's tots. Nobody Funeral said, that trope about fathers in general, about how simply imbecile and unprepared they are just because they are the father and not their mother. I love the idea of being a dad, and helping my kids with all their problems, and being an adult and role model for them, but I swear every time a man tells his experience when going out to a park and taking care of their children, they are always treated like they are some kind of dumbass doing a half-baked job in benefit of the mom and hating every second he is not spending watching football or drinking beer in a tavern. No, stop that. Fathers are actually capable parents and love their children. Some are ruder than other mothers, but that's how strict but loving dads are. Taking care of our children is a rewarding activity, Being an actual adult in emotional and stressful situations is what is actually expected from us to do in such moments. So please stop patronizing us. Stringy Bark said. This has more to do with children's shows and 90s sitcoms, but the pseudo-ADHD in our menace to society protagonists. SpongeBob, Jimmy Neutron, Timmy Turner, Mabel Pines, Star Butterfly, Luz Nasita, etc. You know the ones I mean, the ones who just blurt out random stuff, do whatever they want, cause 40-90% of the episode's problems, are genuinely terrible to their friends and commit at least one Class D or higher felony per episode. In bonus, rarely is any of this ever called out in a meaningful way. I get it, a lot of this is aimed at kids whose impulse control is unreliable at best, but come on, are these the kinds of people you want them looking up to or emulating? You can make a protagonist fun without making them a spastic. It's been done before, look at anything on PBS. Flashed.com said. I'm super late, but this happens in TV and movies, which is really annoying since we are in 2021 and stop being misogynistic. The fact that there is always one girl who isn't like other girls and someone she is the only one that is deemed good enough for the male leads on the show. She likes books and doesn't fall for your hot boy shtick and doesn't need makeup. I'm so sick of this. A woman's worth isn't defined by that shit. It's unrealistic and pretty fucking demeaning to women. You can wear makeup, you can like high heels, you can be chubby, you can like books, you can follow the crowd, whatever, these don't define your worth.